All right, so we're going to start to draw this elevation. It's a building that is designed by OMA, Office of Metropolitan Architecture. It's Casa da Musica. So you should have this PDF file. It might be easier for you to print a version, or if not, you can just refer to the PDF file on your screen. But to start off, you're gonna just want to open up just a blank Rhino file. So here's just a brand new blank Rhino file just opened. The one thing I want to make sure, just a few options. You definitely want to make sure that you're in inches. If you're not, just type in units. And just make sure your model units are in inches. If you want to make sure your layout units are in inches as well, that's fine. But the one you really want to pay attention to is your model units is set to inches. A few other options, make sure you have ortho turned on and object snap turned on as well. And those are probably the only two that you probably need right now. Just make sure you have end, near, mid, intersection, and perpendicular all checked. Those are really useful object snaps to have turned on. And to begin to draw this is essentially what you'll end up with without the dimensions. But to begin to draw this, we're going to be drawing this from this corner. So we're going to start off over here in this corner. You can start off by drawing a line that is a horizontal line that's 41 feet 8 inches, and then two angled lines, which is essentially what this example has. So just to help you out a bit, let's just do this really quick. 41 foot 8. So I'm going to start a line. 41, the foot symbol is to the left of the enter key or the return key. So 41 feet 8, and then hit enter. And what it should do is, as you start to draw a line, you should see that your line is currently 41 foot 8, and you haven't clicked anywhere yet, so it doesn't know exactly where you want to place the line. So I'm just going to make sure I click over here to the right, and just click on the screen and hit return. So now I have this line to start off with. And the next line I'm going to do is this 57 foot 8 line. I'm actually going to make a flat line that is 57 foot 8. Click on the screen. And I'm actually going to take this line, I'm going to move it. I'm going to snap from this endpoint to this endpoint, and then use my rotate command to rotate around this endpoint. And I want to make sure I rotate it 75.6 degrees. So I'll just type in 75.6, enter. And it's now rotated this object, or this line, in the correct placement. And now I want to take this one, 50 foot 8, and I can do the exact same thing I just did, but I'm going to use a slightly different method. I'm going to take this line, and I'm going to rotate it around this point. And as I'm rotating it, I want to make sure I'm copying it as I'm rotating it. So in my command line, I want to make sure copy equals yes is checked right up here. And I want to rotate this 77 degrees, but if I type in 77 now, it's going to rotate it down. Actually, what I want is negative 77. And hit enter. And it'll rotate this up. And then again, just hit enter. And now I want to make sure that this is 50 foot 8. I know that it should be 41 foot 8. But now I need to make it 50 foot 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the scale 1D command. Scale 1D. click this endpoint and this endpoint, and now I'm going to type in 50 foot 8, 50 foot 8, and hit enter. And now it's scaled that line to be 50 foot 8. And if I want to double check, I'm going to type in distance, change my model units to feet and inches, and double check from that endpoint to that endpoint, and now it says 50 foot 8. So to continue, I want to draw a line that is 76 feet 4 inches, and this is just a vertical line. So again, if you have ortho turned on and you just draw a line straight up, it'll work. And then just continue around this perimeter to draw these additional lines with these correct angles, and it'll get you down to this point. And then what you're going to do is you're going to come back here to the beginning, and again, just having ortho turned on, just draw just a few additional lines, a few horizontal lines, a few vertical lines, all the way across, just again using these dimensions. And essentially what you should end up with is something very similar to this, and then all you need to do is just add this one extra line. And the easiest way to do this is, again, take this line, type in rotate, take this as my center of rotation. Just make sure you have copy equals yes turned on, and rotate it a negative 142.3, and it should give you this line, which doesn't exactly go all the way to the end. Just extend it. Just type in extend, select this line, hit enter, and select this line. And now it should extend it all the way across. So to start to finish off the inside, here is this part where, again, you just draw a line, that vertical line that's 14 foot 1, and then draw a rectangle that it's 34 feet 3 inches by 45 feet 4 inches. Offset that inside, offset this line by 1 foot, and just draw a line that goes from this endpoint, from this midpoint to this midpoint. And then here, just draw these diagonal lines by connecting from this endpoint to that, this endpoint to this endpoint, again, this endpoint to this endpoint, and this endpoint to this endpoint. This is the only one that doesn't have an endpoint, a directed endpoint. You'll have an endpoint here, but to find out where this endpoint should go, I'm going to refer back to this this over here, 6'9". So again, if you just make a temporary line that is 6'9", you should have that endpoint, and now you know where to snap from that endpoint to the other endpoint. And then this is just a temporary line we can just delete after the fact. And then to draw in this little area, you can take this line, offset it 17 foot 7, and then offset it again 27 foot 9. If you wanted to, you can take this bottom line, either copy it or offset it 73 feet 1 inch, and just trim off the excess. And then this line goes from this midpoint to, and it's just a horizontal line. So it's essentially from this midpoint to this perpendicular, where it touches this line over here, perpendicular. And then to get this point, the easiest thing again is just to take this line and just offset it 3 times. Offset it or copy it. The first one is 9 foot 2, and then 12 foot 4, and then 8 foot 6. make a vertical line here. Either offset it or copy it. The first one would be 13'6", and then again 7'8", and then just continue to offset these every 7'8" all the way across. And then just use the trim command to trim off all the excess, so essentially what you end up with is something like this. And then the easiest way to get these lines in here, I can just make a rectangle, snapping from this endpoint to this endpoint. I can select that rectangle. I'm going to move it out of the way. And then using my polyline, I'm going to snap from the endpoint to the midpoint to the endpoint. Select that and just copy it. Copy it from this endpoint to that endpoint, and then just make, while you're still running the copy command, you can still copy it these additional areas. So now you have all those set up, and you can just delete this. So by the time you finish, you should have something that looks something similar to this.